Okay.
You bet.
So we're going to take, so we have our triangle sum theorem with our 3 interior angles. So we're going to take each angle here. So my initial equation here, okay, I'm going to take my first angle 2x. I'm going to try to color code these guys. And I'm going to add it to my next angle, which is going to be this guy right here. So that's going to be plus 3x plus 5. And then we can't forget about our third angle. Our third angle right here is our 90 degrees. So we're going to do plus 90. And that's all going to equal, because of our triangle sum theorem, we know that the 3 angles, right, the 3 interior angles of a triangle will add to equal 180. So then we're just going to go ahead and we're going to solve. So we're going to combine like terms. So I have 2x and 3x. They're on the same side of the equal sign. So that's going to be 5x. And then I have 5 plus 90. So that's going to be plus 95 equals 180. So this is where now my algebra comes in, and I'm going to solve by subtracting 95 on both sides. Those will cancel. I'm going to be left with 5x is equal to whatever 180 minus 95 is, which I think is 85. Okay, believe that is 85. Okay, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And 85 divided by 5 is going to be 17. Correct me if I'm wrong. I did that in my head, so I could be very, very wrong. Okay. Mr. L, you're missing the 90 in your equation.
Thank you. I only kept looking at it going, what, where did I take a left turn?
Yep. You made the same mistake the kids do. It's okay. It just shows we're human, right?
That's
all right. Good
me.
job, Zavon. Awesome sauce. All right. Good job, Mariel. A. All right. So that's number 1, right? So number 2, when we take a look at it, we can automatically see, just by taking a look at it, we can see we have an exterior angle, which means I'm probably not going to be able to use the triangle sum theorem. I'm probably going to have to use my exterior angle theorem. Okay. And so for that, if you remember, our exterior angle theorem says that our exterior angle is equal to the 2 non-adjacent interior angles. So we have non-adjacent angle 1 and then non-adjacent angle 2, right? And these are both interior and interior angles. So one exterior angle is equal to the 2 non-adjacent interior angles added together. So my exterior angle, the one that's outside my triangle here, that's going to be on one side of the equal sign by itself. And then on the right, on the other side of the equal sign here, we're going to have our 2 interior angles here. So we'll have 2x plus 6 plus our other interior angle, which is 36. So it's the 2 angles that are not touching the exterior angle here. Easy peasy. Okay, so then we go on to solve this. So we have 4x minus 18 on this side. Over here, I have some common terms. So I have 2x, and then 6 plus 36 is going to give me 42. Okay, and then I'm going to move things over to combine my terms. So 4x minus 2x is 2x minus 18 equals 42. And then I'm going to add my 18 over so I can get my x's and my numbers on opposite sides of the equal sign. I'm going to move this to the side here because I don't want to go any lower. Okay, 2x is equal to 42 plus 18. That's going to be 60. Okay, am I doing this wrong? Right, 42, 36 plus 6 is 42 plus 18. Yeah, it's 60. Okay. And then I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides, and I will get x is equal to 30. Okay, so in your warm-up answer, I'm looking for this, and I'm looking for this. Okay, and from this one, I am looking for this guy and your final answer here. Okay, so our warm-up is as such, guys. Okay, So if you need any help with that, or you have any questions with that, please make sure that you ask or come to tutoring. You do have your quiz on this on this Friday. Okay. So at this point, what I want to do is I actually want to move it on over to our Elmo. Okay. And that way, and I'm going to turn this off here, put it away, put my mouse back in so I can use it. Awesome. And I'm going to stop sharing here and pin my video. There we go. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with our congruent polygons lesson. Yeah, I apologize for the mess, guys. What happens when you have way too many devices going on at the same time? Okay. So here you go. We have our 5.2. So make sure you have that lesson out. While I put this away, that'll give you time to make sure you have those notes out if you do not have them out already. Okay. Mr. L, every time I use this tablet, I mentally say thank you to you. So thank you for the recommendation.
You're welcome. You're better at it than I am. I don't know about you, but the nib that you push into the pen on mine kind of wobbles a little bit. It's a little loose and it drives me crazy.
Mine does too, but I think because I've had a lot more experience using like an iPad and using like one of those stylus pens, it doesn't bother me as much. But yes, you're absolutely right. It does. It is something you have to get used to.
I'm to the point of putting epoxy glue in there just to cement it in place, so I don't have to.
You got it. Yeah. I actually purchased one for one of my close friends. It was on her list because she's an artist and she wanted to do some digital art. She had this on her Amazon list as like, you know, a want.
Right.
So I went ahead because I had experience with it and I liked it. I went ahead and got her that for Christmas.
Did she like it?
Oh yeah, she loves it. She's so thankful. I haven't seen any of the artwork she's done with it yet, but I'm sure I will soon. She's a paralegal, so I'm sure she doesn't have a lot of time.
Yes, just like teachers.
Exactly. All right, so our objective for today, ladies and gents, I will be able to identify and use corresponding parts of congruent figures. Corresponding parts of congruent figures. Okay, that is our objective for today. I have a feeling a lot of people's Wi-Fi is really iffy today because I have a lot of kids dropping in and out. So luckily, I told Kebra, but I will definitely have this video posted by 5 p.m. today. That's going to be one of my goals. Okay, I will have this video posted by 5 p.m. today so you guys can access it if you happen to get kicked out and you miss any part of it. Okay. So objective, I will be able to identify and use corresponding parts of congruent figures. Okay, so we're going to be really talking about how to use congruent parts. So first we're going to talk about how to identify congruent parts in congruent figures. So for example, if I told you two triangles are congruent, how can you tell which sides are congruent to each other and which angles are congruent to each other? And then we're going to take in and of course extend it into algebra, where if you know that two angles are congruent, how can you use that to set up an equation? If you know two sides are congruent, how can you use that to set up an equation? Okay. So, but the first and important thing first off is to be able to identify which parts are congruent. Okay, so which corresponding parts, right? Remember that corresponding means same place, right? So remember when we looked at our lines cut by transversal, we talked about corresponding meaning in the same corner or in the same place, right? And this has a similar definition. Corresponding parts is really talking about parts that are in the same place, but in two separate figures, okay? And then, of course, the word congruent, we should hopefully know by now, is synonymous with equal, right? Congruent is synonymous or the same as saying they are equal. When we say congruent, we're talking about a general idea in geometry, like a general shape or figure. When we say equal, we're talking more on the algebraic sense for measurement, okay? But essentially, they mean the same thing in two different realms. So, congruent polygons. What are congruent polygons? Well, incongruent polygons, okay, corresponding sides. I'm going to try writing a little slow so I can make sure I'm writing clearly. Corresponding sides and corresponding angles are congruent. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that if I specifically tell you this triangle is congruent to that triangle, then you can make the educated it's not an assumption. This definition tells you that based on the fact that those two triangles are congruent, the sides that are corresponding are also congruent, and the sides, the angles that are corresponding are also congruent. Okay. Now, corresponding parts. Okay, what are they? Corresponding parts are parts that are in the same place or position, okay, in the figures. Parts that are in the same place or position in the figures. Okay, I'll give you guys 30 seconds to catch up on writing those down. Okay, so let's talk about corresponding parts in figures, okay? When we see the names of corresponding parts, we want to make sure that we are matching up the corresponding angles when we write the names, okay? So for example here, the quadrilaterals below are congruent. Write a congruent statement for the quadrilaterals. And then we're going to list all the corresponding parts. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in here because we want to notice a few things happening. Okay. We have a quadrilateral here. And over here we have quadrilateral CAMP, or I could call it CPMA, or I could call it AMPC, or PCA. It really doesn't matter.
So you just have to go in order around the polygon either direction.
Yes. Okay. But here's the thing. When writing congruent statements for congruent figures, it's important to match up the congruent vertices. So for example here, angle C, right, in this figure is congruent to angle S in this figure. So if I write angle C first for this quadrilateral's name, I have to write angle S first in this quadrilateral. So I have to match their placements in the names as well, okay? Angle A here, I can see my 2 tack marks here on the angle, is going to be congruent to angle I here, because angle I has the 2 tack marks. Okay, angle M has 1, 2, 3. Angle T, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so M and T are congruent. Angle 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, not angle 4, angle P, 1, 2, 3, 4. And angle E, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So angle P is congruent to angle E. Similarly, so are the sides. If I look at side CA, it has 1 tick mark, and so does side SI. So side CA is congruent to side SI. Okay, same thing here. I have side AM has 2 tick marks. Side IT has 2 tick marks. So these 2 sides are congruent. And they are considered, these are now the corresponding parts, right? So these are corresponding sides right here. These 2 sides of MP and TE are corresponding congruent sides. And these 2 sides of PC and ES are corresponding congruent sides, okay? So noticing and recognizing that will allow us to write the name. So let's say I start with C and I go this way. So it's going to be CAMP. So the name of this quadrilateral is going to be CAMP, right? And I'm going to say that CAMP is congruent to this quadrilateral, right? Because I'm being told that they're congruent. So whatever angle is congruent to angle C, the corresponding congruent angle, okay, is going to go first because C was first. So that would be S. Okay. Here, I'm going to actually do this. C, A, M. Okay, and do I have green? P. Okay. So we have our C. So here we have C and we have S. Those two angles are congruent and corresponding. Okay. Now, the angle here that's congruent and corresponding to angle A is I. So since A is second, I will be second. The angle here, okay, pink and pink there. The angle here that is congruent and corresponding to M is T. So I'll have T there. And then the angle that is congruent and corresponding to P is E. So that will go there. Okay. When writing congruent statements, right, we want to match up the congruent corresponding angles. Okay. And for that, so writing a congruent statement, that is the correct way to do it. It also allows us, the congruent statement also allows us to find corresponding congruent parts. Okay. So I can even use the congruent statement to identify my corresponding angles and my corresponding sides. So if I take a look at my corresponding angles, by looking at the congruent statement, I can see, okay, C and S are in the same position. That means that angle C is congruent to angle S. Okay. A and I are in the same position. That means angle A is congruent to angle I. Okay. We're identifying our corresponding angles. Notice I'm not even looking at the figures anymore. I'm literally just using my congruent statement because I know I wrote it so that the corresponding angles were in the same order. Okay. Next, M and T are in the same position. That means that angle M is congruent to angle T. And lastly, P and E are in the same position. That means that angle P is congruent to angle E. Okay. Now, those are my angles. Okay. Now I want to identify my corresponding sides. And I can do that by looking at the congruent statement as well. Because notice I have CA here. So here's CA, right? CA, SI. Here's SI. CA is congruent to SI. And then AM and IT. AM is congruent to IT. Okay, MP, TE, MP is congruent to TE. And then I take the first and the last. So CP, SE. CP is congruent to SE. So even the name even gives me my corresponding sides. So I have CA, okay, segment CA is congruent to segment SI. That's the first pair. And then I don't skip, just because I had A here, I don't skip it. I start with the second letter there. So AM is congruent to IT. Okay. And then MP, segment MP, is congruent to segment TE. And then, of course, don't forget for the last one, you take the first and the last. First and the last. So CP is congruent to SE. Okay. So this is my congruent statement. These are my corresponding congruent angles. These are my corresponding congruent sides. Okay. And we can write ourselves a little note to the side here. Okay. Match the corresponding angles in the names. Match the corresponding angles in the names. Okay. That will help you find most of your information without ever needing to even look at a figure. Okay. So I want you guys to try this out. Okay. You have quadrilaterals here. The quadrilaterals below are congruent. Write a congruent statement for the quadrilateral. List all the corresponding parts. Okay. So I want you guys to give me the congruent statement in the chat. So I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds of think time. Okay, I want the congruent statement in the chat. Okay. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds of think time, and then I want responses in the chat. Actually, I'll give you a minute of think time. You have to match up the stuff. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Today's one of those days where I have that meeting to attend from 3 o'clock. So I have them open in the background and I muted them. So I wanted to make sure that you guys can hear me even though they're muted. Okay, so let's see. The only response I have is from Andres Moreno. What do you guys think? What's the congruent statement here? Right? I just want this guy right here. I want this guy right here, the congruence statement. This is the statement of congruence, right? Remember, it's a quadrilateral, so we should have 3 letters. Okay, so I'll start you guys off. How about this? Okay, how about I start you guys off? Looking at our first quadrilateral, right? Let's say I have, this is F, E, D, G. So let me go in alphabetical order, D, E, F, G. Okay, let's say I have D, E, F, G. Okay, so if I have D, E, F, G, quadrilateral D, E, F, G, how should I name my second quadrilateral to make sure that my congruent angles are matching with the vertices? Okay, how should I name my congruent quadrilateral here? Are we struggling? Is this, okay. Maybe it's too soon for you to try. Oh, I got Mario coming through. Okay. Almost, Mario. Almost. Not quite. Okay. So let's match up our stuff, okay? Let's match up our vertices here. Okay, give me a second. Let me just mark someone here. All right. So if I have D, E, F, G, right? Angle D is 83 degrees. In these two figures, they didn't like give us the markings. They gave us measurements, which is pretty much the equivalent. So angle D here is 83 degrees. Now, if I can't tell, right? If I can't tell based on the figure, essentially what we're doing is we're matching up corresponding parts. So let me show it to you this way, okay? So if I trace my quadrilateral, D, E, F, G, right? Okay, I didn't even mark down any numbers, right? If I were to bring this guy over here, obviously it doesn't match up. You see that? But if I were to maybe rotate it to make it try to fit, okay, maybe that doesn't match up either. But what if I were to reflect it and then rotate? Oh, look at that. That matches up perfectly, right? So I want to know which angle is that in this figure, which angle is that, which angle is that, and which angle is that, right? So for this figure, I believe this is K, right? Over here, it's L. Over here, I believe is M. And over here is N, right? So if I were to flip this over and look at my image like this, I see where D is, that's where K is. Where E is, that's where L is. It's backwards, sorry. Where F is, that's where M is, and where G is, that's where N is. Okay. So if I had the ability to essentially map this onto this, these are the angles that would fall in the same locations, aka corresponding locations, right? So if I use D first, that means the matching angle to D, the corresponding angle to D is K. So I will need to use K first here. Okay. If you put E second, the matching angle to E is L. I can also see that in my figures here because E is 133 degrees and L is 133 degrees. You see that? So they're congruent. It's also telling me that they're congruent corresponding angles. So I will need to have L here because L is corresponding with E. Okay. F is my third one here, and F is 104, and here's 104 with M. And similarly in my figure here, I had F and M. So M will be my third letter here. Okay. Same positions, right? And then lastly, G. Okay, I'm coming over here to my 40-degree angle. And I have a 40-degree angle here with angle N. So G and N are in corresponding positions, okay? So that means D and K are corresponding, E and L are corresponding, F and M are corresponding, and lastly, I'm going to do it down this way, G and N are corresponding, okay? So if I want to now identify my corresponding angles, Andres Marino, what are you doing, hon? If I wanted to identify my corresponding angles and sides, then I could just use my congruent statement here, or I could use my figures here, okay? But if I use my congruent statement, very simply, I have angle D is congruent to angle K. I have angle E is congruent to angle L, literally just by the placement. Angle F is third, angle M is third, so angle F is congruent to angle M. G is last, N is last, so angle G is congruent to angle N. Okay? All right. And then for my sides, again, remember, you are able to use your congruent statement to do the same, right? So you're able to say, and you take two letters at a time because that's the sides, right? D, E, E, F, F, G, G, D, right? So D, E is congruent to KL. So first two. Oopsie. I made the boo-boo. Okay, that's KL. And then EF is congruent to LM. FG is congruent to MN. Literally going in order, guys. Okay. And then lastly, we take the first and the last, DG. So we're talking about this guy here. DG is congruent to KN. So KN. Okay. DG is congruent to KN. Okay. Can I get a response in the participants window? How do we feel about this example here? Real quick, guys. Give me a response, a yes or a no, a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Some sort of response here. Okay. Okay. So I'm seeing responses from Zavon, from Samson, from Mariel, Jasmine, Gabriel, and Callie. Okay, those are the only people I see responses from. Can I get some sort of response? Thank you, Joshua. Andres, you have a question? Okay. Okay, thank you, Andres. Leon. Thank you, Andres Moreno. I see your response as well. Okay, Jayla, thank you. Leanne, thank you. Okay, can I get some sort of response from Ulysses, from Michael, Jose, Joe, Heaven, Harmony, Caleb, Bethany, Bernadette? Any kind of response from you guys? Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Joe.
Put the thumbs down.
I see it, Callie. I acknowledged it.
Okay.
Oh, you thought I said Callie. I said Caleb. Caleb.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So take some notes on the lack of participation here. Just real quick, guys. I hate to have to do this, but if people don't participate.
You see mine, right?
Who's that speaking?
Joe.
Joe, I do see yours, yes.
All right.
Yeah, I do not. So people's whose I don't see anymore, or don't see. Ulysses, I do not see Jose's. I do not see Harmony, Caleb, Bethany, Bernadette. Okay, these are the people I do not see any kind of response from, nor have they written anything in the chat. Okay, I know that Zoom is acting a little bit weird right now with the updates and stuff. Okay, and that's causing some issues, but that doesn't stop you from being able to communicate with me in the chat, right? So unfortunately, we got to take the time to acknowledge who is participating and unfortunately who isn't participating. Okay, let's do one more example together, yeah? Okay, so let's take a look at the next example. The next example is now about triangles. So we're going to leave quadrilaterals alone. Okay, it says the triangles below are congruent. Write a congruent statement for the triangles. Okay, list all the corresponding parts. So they're literally the same exact directions. Okay, so over here, we have our triangles. We're given these two triangles here. I want you guys to notice the congruent parts based on the symbols that are given to us. Okay, angle A has 2 arcs. Angle D has 2 arcs. That means angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B has 1 arc. Angle E here has 1 arc. That means angle B is congruent to angle E, so they're corresponding. Okay, similarly for C, it has 3 arcs. F has 3 arcs. That means C is congruent to F. Okay, the sides are similar, same. AB, side AB, this side right here, has 1 tick mark. Side ED has 1 tick mark. Okay, side AC has 2 tick marks. Side DF has 2 tick marks. So those are congruent. Side BC has 3 tick marks, and side EF has 3 tick marks. Okay, so this time around, I'm actually not going to write it in alphabetical order, because you don't have to write it in alphabetical order, nor do you have to go in any specific order for the first one that you write. But whatever order that you choose to write your first figure in, you need to match up the corresponding side or angles to the second. Yeah, you can go in any order. Yeah, so I can go ABC, but maybe I don't want to go ABC. Maybe I want to go BCA. Maybe I want to go CBA. Maybe I wanted to go CAB. Oh, let's go CAB. Why not? A. C to the A to the B. Yeah? So triangle CAB. That's how I'm naming that triangle right there. Okay? But once you choose the order of your first figure, the second one has to match the order. Okay? The second figure that you write it congruent to has to match the order. So if I wrote C first here, right? That means I gotta write the the angle that is congruent and corresponding to C first here. So I have my triangle, because we're talking about triangles now, right? So C here, what's the corresponding angle to C in this triangle? That's F. So that means F is going to be first here. Okay, A is second here. What's the corresponding angle to A here? Okay, that would be D. So that means that we're going to go D here. So that A and D, the corresponding angles, match in place. Lastly, for B, here's B, corresponding congruent angle to B in this triangle is E. So that means E is going to be last here. So triangle CAB is congruent to triangle FDE. Okay. And again, corresponding angles. Angle C is going to be congruent to angle F. Angle A is going to be congruent to angle D. Angle B is going to be congruent to angle E. So angle C will be congruent to angle F. Angle A will be congruent to angle D. Oopsie, forgot my congruent statement. Okay. And angle B will be congruent to angle E. As for my sides, CA, the first two, so side CA will be congruent to side FD, first two here. Okay. Side AB will be congruent to side at DE. Right? And lastly, side CB will be congruent to side FE. Okay. All right. So we only have about 15 minutes left to class, so I want to move on to the back. Okay. I want you guys, so complete this, then scan. I want you to complete the U-try and then scan your notes to turn in. Okay. So make sure you complete this U-try and then scan. So it is a U-try, so you're going to try it on your own. Okay. But for right now, I'm going to flip it over to the back. Okay. Because we got to apply this to some algebra, some measurements. Okay. So if we take a look at something like this, okay, we're told that triangle ADC is congruent to triangle BCD. Okay, so I'm going to trace this triangle ADC. ADC. So we're talking about this triangle right here. Okay, triangle ADC is congruent to triangle BCD. So BC, oh, pink's not writing. BCD. Okay. They want to know the measure of angle BDC. They want to know the measure of angle BDC. BDC is this angle right here. They want to know the measure of that angle right there. Okay. Now, this is an interesting one. Okay, so if I were to separate these two triangles, I can do that. Visually, I can separate these two triangles so I can see them separately. Okay, so if I separate triangle ADC, I can have triangle ADC here, ADC, take information about them. This is 45 degrees. This angle right here is 30 degrees, right? Okay. That angle right there is 30 degrees. So that angle and that angle here. And then I have triangle BDC this way. Oop, doesn't look quite congruent, but that's okay. Okay. I know that this angle here, I can see is congruent to that angle. Okay, so that's BDC. I can see that this angle here is congruent to that angle there. I can also see them because A and B are in the same position. Okay, and then D and C are in the second positions together. Okay, so what does this mean? If I'm trying to find the measure of angle BDC, BDC is in this triangle right here. Okay, BDC is in this triangle right here. It's that angle. But I don't have any measurements in this triangle, or do I? Okay, I do. Because if I know that this angle B is congruent to angle A, and angle A is 45 degrees, that means angle B is 45 degrees. And if I know that this angle C right here is congruent to that angle D, and that angle D is 30 degrees, that means this angle C is 30 degrees. So that just leaves this angle for me to find, which means I can use the triangle sum theorem. Let's call this guy X. Okay, let's call that guy X. So if I have 30 degrees, right? 30 degrees plus 45 degrees plus X, triangle sum theorem tells me these three angles added together equal 180. Okay, combine like terms, I have 75 plus X equals 180. Subtract 75 from both sides. I will get that X is equal to 105. So what does this mean? That means this guy equals 105, 105 degrees. So the measure of angle BDC is equal to 105 degrees. Okay. Let's try a simpler one. This one right here. Okay. Here, I'll keep that here just in case you guys can see it or need to see it. It says triangle ACB. Oh, let me move that down. Sorry. Triangle ACB is congruent to triangle RQP. Okay. So that means A corresponds to R. C corresponds to Q. And B corresponds to P. Okay. We want the measure of angle P here. So angle P is this guy right over here. Okay. It's in this triangle with no other measurements here. So I know that this is 90 degrees for angle Q. Cool. And I can see that angle A is congruent to angle R. Okay, angle A is congruent to angle R. So in this triangle, angle A.
How can you tell that?
Well, great question. I can see that based on the fact that A is first here and R is first here in the names. Okay, you guys follow? I hope so. Right, A is first and R is first. That means A is congruent to R. Additionally, I can see it in the figures. I have one arc here for angle A. I have one arc here for angle R. So they've even notated in the triangles for me. So if angle A is 52 degrees, that means angle R is also 52 degrees. So that means all I'm missing is angle P. And again, I can do the triangle sum theorem here. I have 90 degrees, right? Remember, this is 90. Okay, this is 90 degrees. I have 52 degrees for R. I'm looking for angle P. So I have measure of angle P plus 90 degrees plus 52 is equal to 180. And I can go through and solve. I'm going to combine these two. They are like terms. So measure of angle P plus 142 is equal to 180. Subtract 142 from both sides. I will get that the measure of angle P is equal to 38 degrees. Okay. Okay, we have a few more minutes left and I want to do a few more examples for you guys. Okay, so let's take a look at the examples of our quadrilaterals here. And I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of time to do like the checks today. Remember guys, whatever you miss, you can always catch on the video. Okay. So in this diagram, we're told in the diagram, DEFG is congruent to SPQR. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick check here. Just a quick check. I need you guys to quickly respond, okay? Which angle is congruent to angle F? From this figure, which angle is congruent to angle F? Just write it in the chat for me. Thank you, Mariel. Come on, guys. Based on the name, I'm asking you, which angle from this quadrilateral, SPQR, is congruent to angle F? Thank you, Andres Moreno. Thank you, Callie. Thank you, Gabriel. Gabriel, seriously, privately, dude. You're not helping me here. Okay, so now I gotta ask another question because Gabriel killed it, man. All right. How about this? Which one of these is congruent to D? Which angle from SPQR is congruent to D? Thank you, Gabriel. Which one is congruent to D? Thank you, Mariel. Okay, look at the placement of D. Is D first, second, third, or last? Thank you, Callie. Finally caught it. Thank you, Jasmine. Bernadette, I want you to take a look, okay? Is D first, second, third, or last in the order of the name that they gave us? You want to choose the one in the same place. Thank you, Andres Moreno. Okay, good. Okay, the congruent angle to F was Q because they're both in the third position here. Okay, the congruent angle to D is S because they're both in the same position here. Okay, so D is congruent. Angle D, that means, is going to be congruent to angle S. And then angle F will be congruent to angle Q. So F and Q. E will be congruent to P. Okay, E will be congruent to P. And of course, G will be congruent to R. It's all about the placements, right? Okay, so let's take a look at our questions here. It says find the value of X. Okay, so let's see where X is. Okay, we have X here at 2X minus 4. We have an X here, but this has 6Y plus X. Ooh, okay. All right. It looks like, and then on this one here, DEFG, I have a bunch of measurements. I have 8 feet here for DE. I have 12 feet here for GF. Angle D here is 102. Angle G is 84. Angle F is 68. Okay. So in order to find X, I want to use the one that only has X in it. I don't want to use the one that has Y in it too. So I want to use this 2x minus 4. Well, 2x minus 4 feet is the measurement of a side QR, okay? It's actually the measurement of a side QR. So I need to know which one of these sides is congruent to QR. Okay, which one of these sides is congruent to QR on this polynomial? Well, I can kind of do it a few ways. I can use patty paper and trace and then rotate, right? I can trace this and then rotate it and put it there. Or I can look at the name and see, here's QR right there, right? Here's QR right there. That's the last two letters. So I can go and look and see what are the last two letters right here. That's going to be FG. So QR and FG are going to be congruent, or GF, but because the order is Q and then R, the way I wrote it, we're going to put F and then G. So QR is equal to FG. Okay. So what does that mean? That means I can set up that equation. Okay. QR is 2x minus 4. And then FG right here is 12 feet. So I'm going to say 12 here. And then I can solve. Add 4 to both sides. I get 2x is equal to 16. Divide by 2 on both sides. That's going to be x is equal to 8. Okay. Now that I know 8, I know that this right here is 6y plus 8 because I can replace the x with 8. Okay. And now this will allow me to find the value of y. So I can take a look at this. 6y plus x is angle Q. Okay, that's the measure of angle Q. And I know that angle Q, as you guys were telling me, is congruent to angle F. So measure of angle Q is equal to the measure of angle F. So that means I can take this 6y plus, you can use x and then plug in the 8, or you can use the 8 already. Are we all clear on how this 8 got here? Right, we found that x is equal to 8, so I just substituted in the 8 for x. So I have 6y plus 8 is equal to the measure of angle F right here, which is 68 degrees. And now I'm going to solve this. Subtract 8 on both sides. I will get 6y is equal to 60. Divide by 6 on both sides. I get y is equal to 10. And there's my y. Okay. Ooh, it is exactly 3:40, my dears. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to let you guys go. I would also like to see you guys complete this. Then scan, okay, your notes for these two questions here. Okay. Have a wonderful day. I will see you guys on Friday for your quiz.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Have a great day. Stay safe.